David Menzies for Rebel News here in Thornhill, Ontario. Well, folks, I'm standing outside the Imam Mahdi Mosque. The reason why I'm here, it's Friday, April the 3rd. My assignment today is I'm on mosque patrol. You see, the CBC, incredibly, last week, reported that there are mosques in the Greater Toronto Area that are not adhering to coronavirus precautions. In other words, they're opening their mosques, they're having their congregation come in, they're not keeping a social distance, and the whistleblower for this, believe it or not, was an imam who was fed up with seeing this safety protocol being violated. Now, that's my kind of imam. By the way, I wanted to reach out to him, but his identity is being kept secret for his own personal safety. Gee, why would that be? I thought Islam was the religion of peace. Who would want to hurt an imam like that? In any event, I'm going to be visiting some of the mosques that were noted in the story, including a couple in downtown Toronto and one in Brampton. But I thought I would start here. We've been here before. You may recall back in February, members of the Persian community were out here protesting this mosque. They allege that it is being funded by the Iranian regime and that there are people who are allegedly radicalized coming here. I wanted to get the mosque side of the story, but they called the police instead. Check it out. I'm just trying to get their side of the story.
They don't want to give the story, so.
They don't want to? Okay.
No. Okay.
This is odd that the police is doing the talking for the people at the mosque. I don't understand. By the way, folks, just to show that I don't play any favorites here, I have been on the lookout for other religious buildings that might be violating the COVID-19 protocol. Churches, synagogues, Hindu temples. So far, I found no evidence of that. Indeed, here I am at the Harzion Synagogue. It is literally next door to the mosque here in Thornhill, Ontario. And far from being open, the gates are closed. There's a padlock on the gates. I looked in the parking lot. I saw precisely one car. And the video board behind me is advertising the fact that if you're interested in services or if you're interested in Torah studies, you are instructed to go online. And that way you can indeed comply with the law of the land. Well, folks, I'm in downtown Toronto on Parliament Street, to be precise. And I'm here because in the CBC report, they reported that a Parliament Street mosque under the name of the Central and Toronto Islamic Foundation was indeed having worshippers up to 50 come in. However, this is where the CBC report gets a little confusing. The Central Toronto Islamic Foundation isn't located on Parliament Street. It's actually in Scarborough. I don't know if one of the mosques on Parliament Street, there are two, is affiliated with this center. But in any event, this particular mosque behind me is the Masjid Omar bin al-Khattar's mosque. And I can tell you that there is a notification on the screen that's blocking off the mosque that until further notice, it is indeed closed due to the COVID-19 virus. In any event, I'll travel up the street here on Parliament and see if the other mosque is indeed closed as well. Well, folks, I took a drive up Parliament Street to the second mosque. It is the Masjid Rama. And I'm happy to report that it is indeed temporarily closed down in light of the COVID-19 virus. Don't know if this is just a matter of obeying the law. I don't know if this is a sudden realization that it's not a good idea for 50 people in a confined space to congregate, or perhaps it was the publicity about perhaps one of these mosques remaining open on a limited basis that made them change their tune. But the good news, as I said, is that this mosque too is in compliance. Well, folks, my final destination for the day is here at the Salam Mosque in Brampton, Ontario. Yeah, it's a mosque, but you know what? It looks very churchy, That's because once upon a time was indeed a church going back to 1834. This was the Mount Pleasant Presbyterian Church. In 2012, it was sold off for redevelopment, and this is what was redeveloped on this site. The church is now a mosque. But in any event, the reason I'm here is that the whistleblowing imam noted that this was one of the mosques that was not following the rules, that it was going ahead with congregations of up to 50 people coming in for prayer service as of last week, which is no longer halal according to the current rules. I came by here just to find out if indeed there was going to be any kind of congregation. Now, you might notice a sign behind me. It says Friday prayers at 1:30. In fairness, I think that might be old signage that hasn't been changed or covered up, because I do note that the parking lot has been closed. There's actually a vehicle blocking the entrance. There's a sign noting that there's no trespassing and that violators will be prosecuted. I don't know if that's a recent sign or it's always been there. But more to the point, at the entrance of the mosque, there are two small signs in the windows of the doors noting that the mosque has indeed been closed to the public. So it's only people associated with the mosque, the running of the mosque, that are coming into this facility right now. Right now it's coming up for 5 o'clock. So as I said, I don't know if some 3.5 hours ago there were indeed prayer services here. Maybe that warrants another visit out here next Friday. But in the meantime, you might ask yourself, why is it that some religious institutions are ignoring the warnings of the authorities in terms of social distancing and trying to put an end to the spread of the COVID-19 virus? Well, the imam, the whistleblowing imam that is, who brought attention to this troubling issue, he had some very interesting comments to say. Namely, quote, "They're taking their religious orders from scholars residing in New Delhi, India, not from reputable Canadian imams. And the scholars in India have instructed them not to close down their mosques until there is an order to do so. I've seen a video message with my own eyes from a cleric in New Delhi who said that a Muslim is never impure, and therefore it is impossible to impart an impurity to another Muslim," end quote. So that is the kind of thinking that is behind this, and hopefully that thinking is coming to an end, whether it's by public pressure or pressure by the authorities, or just maybe even an outcry from within the mosque itself. I don't see any evidence of anyone being here, and hopefully until we stamp out the coronavirus, that will be the new normal going forward. For Rebel News, I'm David the Menzoid Menzies. Hey folks, unlike Justin Trudeau's media party, we don't receive a single nickel of government funding from the people in Ottawa, nor would we take it if it were ever offered. Rather, we depend on you, our viewers, to keep us sustainable. And I know these are terrible times to ask for money, but ask I must. If you can indeed donate to the Rebel, that would be so appreciated. Please go to helprebelnews.com. That's helprebelnews.com. Kick in whatever you can so that we can continue to bring you the other side of the story.